Alright, this is an introductory video to the bag shaker. I've got a spawn block that has been cooked. This is 35% oat hull pellets and 65% hardwood sawdust. It's a 12-pound block, cooked just like it would be to make a bag of whatever in the lab. And I just put corn in to simulate spawn. This is not cooked, it's just there because corn shows up well on camera. It turns out none of the other grains really do. So yeah, I've just spawned it, and one of the things I want to point out is that when you break it up, depending on how you do, it will generally leave the spawn down against the lower surface of the bag. So as I bust this up, I've not worked in the lab for a while. So you bust that up, a couple big chunks. One of the things you'll notice is no spawn on the top. I'll do a quick flip. You see all the spawn is in the top of the bag when I flipped it, in the upper half from when it was set up right. So with the bag shaker, the top of the bag, however you put it in, is what mixes the most, because the weight of the material on top presses down on the material on the bottom of the bag and holds it, keeps it from tossing as much. So I want to show what happens when you mix it with the spawn on the downside versus what happens when you mix it with the spawn on the upside. We're going to flip this back over. You can still see there's no spawn visible at the top. I'm going to put this in the bag shaker. Sorry about the shaky cam. Andrew said that it helps to kind of grab it in the center of the bag when it's set in, and it just centers up the material a little bit. That moves fast enough. I'm not sure how well you can see the material turning around. It's flopping. Now I'm starting to see some of that corn pulling up. So that's 15 seconds. That's what I have it set on as a default. I flip this back over. You'll see there's a pretty good pocket of corn. This just hasn't moved. That very bottom layer, that lower ½ inch, that's what moves the least. And unfortunately, when you put the spawn on the downside, it's right in that lower ½ inch. So you don't get a whole lot of movement of spawn in that bag when you start it with the spawn on the downside. So being aware of where the spawn is and just managing to make sure that it's on the upside of the bag when you put it in. We'll start that again. You can see that's already moved around through the bag a lot better than how it was that first shake. Okay, you can see that corn spread throughout the top, and as I roll it around, you'll see now it's even gotten down to the bottom of the bag. It's not as heavy on the bottom, and again, you still have that lower ½ inch. It's not going to move a whole lot. You'll get a little bit of that movement, especially as the bag flops around a little bit. But if you start it with the spawn side up, most of the time you can get it to shake pretty fully in that first 15 seconds. One of the caveats there is if you have a table that is shaking a lot, then you're going to lose a lot of energy into that table. And so you'll have to adjust your speed and time according to how you have this thing mounted and how you're working it into your workflow. It's very important to stabilize your workstation as much as possible. It also can be helpful to not put it on your main lab table, because if you're working on the table and then you have this thing shaking it around while you're trying to run your bag sealer and all that, that can be less than ideal. If you can have its own stand, I'll even show you. I'll probably mention this in another video, but This is a pretty heavy duty table. I've got it cross braced and I have a full plank on either side, on the long side. And then it's also got 3/4 inch plywood across the top and a 100-pound 3D printer sitting on there. So this table is very stable. While it's shaking, I'll just show you. You can see there's a little bit of rocking, but the table's pretty solid. You're not getting a whole lot of movement. That also plays into, I'm running it at about 75 or 80% of the max speed. That's what seems to work the best on a good stable surface. If you're having a lot of shaking, you can compensate on that by running it a little bit faster. It's just one of those things that you've got to dial in according to your circumstances. But the better you can stabilize your table, the better off you're going to be.